They canceled my 18th birthday 3 days before it was supposed to happen. Not postponed, not rescheduled, canceled because my sister needed the house to be quiet. I remember standing in our kitchen, my phone buzzing in my pocket with messages from friends asking what time they should arrive, while my mother spoke in a calm voice that didn't match the weight of what she was saying. "Your sister isn't in a good place right now. Noelle," she said. "We have to be considerate." Before I go any further, I need to be clear about one thing. The entire content of the video is a fictional work created by the writing team of the Revenge Amber channel, intended to reflect common conflicts in families and society, helping viewers recognize their emotions and choose a more positive way of living. My name is Noelle Parker. I am 20 years old now, but this story begins the week I turned 18, when I finally understood where I stood in my own family. "Mom, it's just a small party," I said. "It's already planned. People are coming." My sister Sloane sat at the kitchen counter, wrapped in one of my mother's robes, her phone face down beside her. Her eyes were red, but her posture was relaxed, like someone waiting to be defended. "I can't handle noise right now," she said softly. "I'm already overwhelmed. Having people in the house would make everything worse." My father walked in halfway through the conversation, still wearing his work boots. He listened for less than a minute before nodding. "Your sister's health comes first," he said. "You'll understand when you're older. I am turning 18, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "This is my birthday." Sloane finally looked at me. "I'm not trying to ruin anything," she said. "But if you really cared about me, you wouldn't push this." The power shifted right there. It always did. My mother reached for Sloane's hand. "She's not saying you don't matter," she told me. "She's saying she needs support." "So do I said. My father exhaled, already tired of the conversation. "You'll have other birthdays," he said. "Your sister is struggling right now. We can't ignore that." That was the moment something inside me went quiet. They didn't argue. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't have to. The decision had already been made, the same way it always was. I was expected to absorb the disappointment, smooth it over, make it easier for everyone else. My mother turned to me again. "You should start calling people," she said. "Let them know the party isn't happening. Just say something came up." "And the cake?" I asked. She hesitated. "We'll deal with it." Sloane picked up her phone and stood. "Thank you," she said to them. "Not to me. I just need a calm space right now." She walked upstairs, leaving me alone with the sound of my own breathing. That afternoon, I sat on the edge of my bed and began making calls I never thought I would have to make. With each one, the weight in my chest grew heavier. By the time I reached the last name on my list, I realized this wasn't about a party at all. If this moment feels familiar to you, if you have ever been the one expected to stay quiet so everyone else could stay comfortable, then stay with me. What happened next changed everything. Not because I fought back, but because I finally stopped holding everything together. From the outside, the Parkers were the kind of family people trusted without asking questions. My father, Jonathan Parker, ran a small HVAC and residential construction business in Plano. He was the man neighbors called when something broke and they wanted it fixed right the first time. My mother, Claire Parker, sold homes in quiet subdivisions where people cared deeply about school districts, curb appeal, and reputation. Together, they earned just under $200,000 a year, enough to be comfortable, enough to look successful, enough to never raise suspicion. At church luncheons and neighborhood gatherings, my mother liked to smile and say, "We're very lucky. Both our girls are doing great." My father would nod. "We've got a good family." At home, the language changed. "Sloane's just sensitive," my mother would say when my sister slammed doors or burst into tears over something small. "You know how she is. She feels things more deeply," my father added once, lowering his voice like he was explaining something complicated. "You don't." That was always the difference. Sloane felt. I handled. When I came home from school and went straight to the kitchen table with my backpack, my mother would glance at my sister's empty room and sigh. "Can you check if Sloan ate today?" she asked me. "Can you remind her about her class tomorrow? Can you talk to her?" She listens to you. No one ever asked if I was tired. When my father misplaced an invoice or forgot a deadline, he didn't look for it himself. "Noelle," he called from his office. "You're better at organizing these things." At dinner, Sloan talked about her frustrations. Her professors didn't understand her. Her friends were being difficult. Her plans never worked out the way they should. My parents leaned in, nodding, offering solutions, offering reassurance. When I mentioned a test or a shift at work, my mother smiled politely. "You've always been so responsible," she said. "We don't worry about you." That sentence followed me everywhere. It meant I didn't need help. It meant I didn't need attention. It meant I could be leaned on without being supported. The house ran smoothly because I made sure it did. Bills were paid on time because I reminded my parents. Schedules stayed organized because I tracked them. Problems were softened because I absorbed the tension before it reached anyone else. And the more reliable I became, the more invisible I felt. By the time my 18th birthday approached, the family everyone admired already depended on me more than they knew. They just never believed I would stop holding it together. Sloan was 6 years older than me, which meant she was already a legend in our house by the time I learned how to stay quiet. "She's always been special," my mother liked to say, usually after Sloan stormed off or slammed a door. "You can't expect her to handle things the way you do." At 16, Sloan came home smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. My parents were waiting at the kitchen table like it was a surprise reveal. "Go look in the driveway," my father said. A leased luxury SUV sat there, keys dangling from my mother's fingers. Sloan squealed, hugged them both, and cried happy tears. "I deserve this," she said, laughing through the excitement. 2 years later, when I turned 16, my father tossed me the keys to a used sedan with a cracked dashboard and a radio that cut out when you hit a bump. "It runs," he said. "That's what matters." I thanked him. I always did. Sloan received monthly help while she bounced between programs and semesters, trying to find the right fit. My parents called it support. When I asked for help covering books for my advanced classes, my mother frowned. "You work," she said. "It's good for you." When Sloan failed a course, my father blamed the professor. "She's creative," he said. "Traditional classes don't work for her." When I earned high marks, my mother smiled but didn't look up from her phone. "That's expected," she said. "You've always been driven." The rules shifted depending on who needed them. One night, Sloan came home past midnight, furious about a fight with her friends. She paced the living room, crying and shouting. "No one understands me," she said. "Everyone always leaves." My parents stayed up with her, making tea, offering reassurance, promising things would get better. At one point, my mother turned to me. "Can you sit with her?" she asked. "You calm her down." I sat. I listened. I absorbed. The next morning, I was late to school because I stayed up helping Sloan organize notes she hadn't bothered to take. My father noticed the time. "You need to manage your schedule better," he said. I learned quickly what each role required. Sloan could fall apart and be caught. I had to stay standing or be ignored. Whenever something went wrong, my parents didn't ask why. They asked where I was. "Did you remind Sloan? Did you check on her? Did you help her?" No one asked who helped me. By the time my birthday approached, the pattern was so familiar it barely hurt anymore. I told myself this was just how families worked. Someone had to be steady. Someone had to give more. I didn't realize then that being steady was slowly teaching them I could be sacrificed without consequence. By the time I was 17, my parents no longer asked if I could help. They spoke as if my involvement was automatic. "Noelle, can you check the mail?" "Noelle, did you see the reminder from the bank?" "Noelle, can you make sure Sloan submitted her assignment?" I answered every time. "I will." "I did." "I'll handle it." My mother liked to say I was naturally organized, as if that explained why she handed me her open laptop whenever she felt overwhelmed. "Can you look at this listing for me?" she asked one evening. "I don't want to miss anything important." I scanned the contract, caught an error in the dates, and pointed it out. "Oh, good," she said, already reaching for her phone. "I knew you'd notice." My father did the same with his business paperwork. "You've got a better eye for details," he told me. "Just fix it the way you think is best." There was no thank you. There was only relief that someone else had taken the problem off their hands. Sloane benefited the most from this arrangement. When she struggled, I was sent in like a translator. She doesn't respond well to criticism. My mother warned me once. "Be gentle." "I'm not stupid." Sloane snapped when I suggested she start an assignment earlier. "I didn't say you were." I replied, "I'm trying to help." "You always sound like you're better than me," she said. Later that night, my parents pulled me aside. "You have to be more careful with her feelings," my father said. "She's fragile." I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. When Sloane succeeded at something, my parents celebrated loudly. "We're so proud of you," my mother said after Sloane finally passed a class she had failed before. "You pushed through." No one mentioned the hours I spent sitting beside her, explaining concepts she had ignored the first time. When I succeeded, the response was quieter. "That makes sense," my father said when I brought home an acceptance letter. "You've always been capable." Capable became my label. Capable meant I didn't need support. Capable meant I could be stretched thinner without breaking. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table organizing papers that weren't mine. My phone buzzed with a message from a friend asking how I was holding up with school, work, and everything else. I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back, "I'm fine." That was the answer my family expected. That was the answer that kept the house running. And every time I gave it, I felt myself becoming less visible, less necessary as a person, more necessary as a function. They didn't notice the difference. They only noticed when something stopped working. I asked for the party carefully, the way you ask for something you already expect to be denied. It doesn't have to be big. I said at dinner one night, just the backyard, a few people. My mother paused with her fork midair. "What kind of people friends from school?" I said, "A couple teachers. My manager." My father looked up from his plate. "Teachers. They helped me with recommendations." I said, "They've been important to me." Sloane didn't say anything. She scrolled on her phone, uninterested, which I took as permission. My mother nodded slowly. "I suppose we could do something small." "Really?" I asked. 18 is a milestone, my father said, as if the idea had just occurred to him. "You're becoming an adult." The words landed heavier than he intended. Becoming, not being. We planned it in pieces. My mother asked what kind of cake I wanted. "Chocolate," I said. "From that bakery near the square," she asked. I nodded. "If that's okay." My father offered to handle the grill. "Invite whoever you want," he said. "Just give us a list." I made one that night, careful not to overdo it. I counted names twice. I didn't want anyone accusing me of asking for too much. When I told my friend Hannah, she smiled so wide I felt something loosen in my chest. "Finally," she said. "They're celebrating you." My manager at work clapped me on the shoulder when I invited him. 18, he said. "That's a big one. Proud of you." Even Sloane acknowledged it, briefly. "Just don't make it loud," she said one morning. "I hate chaos. I won't." I replied. For the first time in a long while, I felt visible, not needed, not relied on. Seen. The invitations went out. People responded quickly, my phone filled with messages asking what they could bring, what time to arrive. My mother mentioned it to a neighbor. Noelle's having her first real birthday gathering. She said, "It's exciting." The word real stayed with me. I let myself imagine the moment. Standing in the yard, Hearing my name spoken with warmth instead of expectation, being congratulated instead of instructed. 3 days before my birthday, the cake order was confirmed. The playlist was finished. My parents talked about it like it was settled. I went to bed that night thinking that maybe this time, things really would be different. Sloane came home on Friday afternoon, dropped her bag in the hallway, and announced her crisis before anyone asked. "The trip is off," she said. "Completely off." My mother rushed in from the kitchen. "What do you mean, off?" "They canceled." Sloane snapped. The group fell apart. "I'm not going. Everything's ruined." My father followed, already reaching for his phone. "How much did we lose?" Sloane waved a hand. "Flights, deposits, almost $4,000. But that's not even the point." My mother touched her arm. "Honey, sit down. You're shaking." "I can't breathe," Sloane said, lowering herself onto a chair. "I was counting on this. I needed this." I stood a few steps away, listening. The party supplies were stacked neatly by the wall, half visible from where I was standing. "She's spiraling," my mother said quietly to my father, as if Sloane couldn't hear. "We need to be careful. I don't think I can handle having people here this weekend," Sloane said after a moment. Her voice was calmer now, steadier. "The noise, the attention, it'll set me back." My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" Sloane looked at me, eyes glassy but focused. "Your party," she said. "I can't do it." "It's tomorrow," I said. "Everyone's coming." My mother nodded slowly, already agreeing. "She's had a big emotional shock." "Noelle." "It's a birthday," I said. "My birthday." Sloane pressed her lips together. "I'm not trying to be selfish," she said, "but I need the house to be calm. I need space to recover from what I asked." My father's voice cut in. "Enough." He turned to me, his tone firm. "Your sister is struggling. We can't ignore that. So I just cancel." I said, "After weeks of planning, we'll reschedule," he said. "It's not a big deal." "It is to me," I said. My mother sighed, the way she did when she thought I was being difficult. "You'll have other birthdays," she said. "Right now, your sister needs support." Sloane looked down, then back up at me. "If you really cared about me," she said softly, "you wouldn't make this harder than it has to be." The room went quiet. The decision settled into place like it always did. My father glanced at the stack of invitations. "You should start calling people," he said. "Explain that something came up. Don't tell them about me," Sloane added quickly. "That would be humiliating." My mother nodded. "Just say you're not feeling well." I stared at them, one by one. None of them met my eyes. That night, I sat on my bed with my phone pressed to my ear, apologizing over and over. Hannah sounded confused. My manager paused before saying he understood. One of my teachers asked if everything was okay at home. "I'm fine," I said, again and again. Downstairs, Sloane laughed softly at something on her phone. Later, I saw her post a photo from a spa across town, wrapped in a white robe, captioned, "Learning to choose peace." On the morning of my birthday, no one mentioned it. My mother was blending Sloane a smoothie. My father left early for work. Sloane glanced at me as she scrolled. "You don't have to sulk," she said. "It's not my fault things worked out this way." Something inside me went still. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stopped believing that staying would ever make things better. I didn't make the decision in a dramatic moment. There was no shouting match, no slammed doors. The choice settled in quietly, the same way I had learned to handle everything else in that house. That afternoon, I went to my room and closed the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall until my phone buzzed. It was my debate coach, Mrs. Ellison. I hadn't planned to call her first, but her name felt safe. "Mrs. Ellison," I said when she answered, keeping my voice steady. "I need some advice. She listened without interrupting as I explained just enough. Not the years, just the birthday, just the silence. When I finished, she didn't rush to fill the space. "You know," she said gently, "you don't have to earn the right to be treated well." Her husband's voice came on the line a moment later. "We have a guest room," he said. "If you need somewhere stable to finish the year, it's yours." I thanked them and ended the call before I could change my mind. Next, I called my manager, Mark. "I can take more hours," I said, immediately. He didn't ask why. "You've already earned them," he replied. "I'll adjust the schedule." The last call was to my school counselor. She sounded alarmed when I told her I might be moving out. "You're legally an adult," she said. "We'll make sure the paperwork reflects that. You're not doing anything wrong." That night at dinner, I acted normal. I answered questions. I passed the salt. My parents noticed the calm and mistook it for maturity. "I'm proud of you," my father said. "You handled the disappointment well." I nodded. I didn't correct him. Over the next few days, I moved quietly. Important documents first. Clothes I actually wore, my laptop, a few books. I took things a little at a time, fitting them into my bag before work, before school. No one noticed. I stopped reminding my mother about deadlines. I stopped organizing my father's invoices. When Sloan complained about missing something, my parents handled it themselves. One Saturday afternoon, when the house was empty, I packed the rest. I left my key on the desk and a letter folded neatly beside it. The letter was short, calm, honest. I wrote that I was done being invisible, that I was choosing a life where my presence wasn't conditional, that I wouldn't be reachable until real change happened. When I drove away, I didn't feel angry. I felt clear. For the first time, I wasn't staying to make things easier for everyone else. I was leaving to make room for myself. The first few weeks after I left were quiet, almost peaceful. At the Ellisons' house, no one expected me to fix anything. At work, Mark handed me extra shifts without hesitation. "You earned this," he said when I thanked him. "Don't apologize for taking it." At home, my parents noticed the absence in smaller ways at first. My mother called one evening, her voice tense. "Did you move some files?" she asked. "No," I said. "Well, something's missing," she replied. "I can't find the paperwork for a listing. I'm not there anymore." I said. The words landed heavier than I expected. She ended the call quickly. A week later, my father left a voicemail. "Do you remember when the credit card bill is due?" he asked. I can't find the reminder. I didn't call back. Without someone smoothing the edges, things began to scrape against each other. My mother missed a deadline and lost a client she had been courting for months. She blamed the market when she talked to her friends. But when she spoke to me, her voice shook. "I don't know how I let this happen," she said. Sloane's spiral became impossible to ignore. She called me late one night, crying. "They froze the card," she said. "Dad says I spent too much. You shouldn't be using it without asking." I replied. She went quiet, then snapped, "You always take their side." "I'm not taking anyone's side," I said. "I'm not involved." She hung up. Over the next year, the problems stacked slowly, the way real consequences do. Small charges turned into larger ones. Missed payments accumulated into penalties. My parents covered what they could, borrowed when they couldn't, and kept telling themselves it would settle down. It didn't. My father admitted the truth during one strained phone call. "We're short," he said. "Not a little. A lot." Sloane had been using accounts she wasn't authorized to touch. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. By the time they traced it all, the total damage had reached roughly $65,000 spread over several years. Money my parents didn't have ready to lose. "She didn't mean to," my mother said, almost pleading. "She just doesn't think things through." "That's what thinking things through is for," I replied. She didn't answer. The neighborhood noticed next. My mother stopped attending gatherings. My father sold equipment from his business, quietly. Sloan stopped posting photos that showed anything beyond a tight frame. When my parents called more often, the tone changed. "We just need help organizing," my father said. "We're overwhelmed," my mother added. "We don't know how you used to keep track of everything." I listened. I didn't step back in. The hardest call came after Sloan was caught using someone else's work and failed a class for good. "They're talking about academic misconduct," my mother whispered. "This could ruin her." I closed my eyes, steadying myself. "This is the result of never letting her face consequences," I said. Silence filled the line. I wasn't watching them fall apart with satisfaction. I was watching a structure collapse that had only stood because I kept my hands pressed against its weakest points. When I stopped, the truth finally had room to show itself, and I stayed where I was, building something quieter, steadier, and entirely my own. The call came on a Tuesday night, almost 2 years after I left. I didn't recognize the number at first. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me answer. "Noelle," my father said. His voice sounded thinner than I remembered. "Please don't hang up." I stayed quiet. "We know why you left," he continued. "We didn't back then, but we do now." My mother's breathing filled the space between his words. Then she spoke. "We failed you," she said. "We leaned on you because it was easier than holding your sister accountable." I didn't rush to respond. Silence had become something I used carefully. "We lost the house," my father said. "We're renting now. The business barely survived last year. We're still paying down debts." "I'm not calling for money," my mother added quickly. "I wouldn't ask you for that." "What are you asking for?" I said, "A chance," my father replied, "to talk, to figure out how to be better." I exhaled slowly. "You're calling because things fell apart," I said, "not because you finally saw me." "That's not fair," my mother whispered. "It is," I replied. "I told you what would happen if nothing changed. You didn't listen." My father's voice broke. "We know, and we're paying for it." I let that sit. "I'm not coming back to fix anything," I said. "I won't manage your lives. I won't buffer the consequences anymore." "We understand," my mother said, though her tone suggested she was still learning what that meant. "If there's going to be any relationship," I continued, "it will look different. Therapy, boundaries, and Sloan taking responsibility for her actions. Not someday. Now." My father answered without hesitation. "We'll do it." After the call ended, I sat alone in my apartment, the quiet steady and familiar. This quiet didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. I thought about the girl I had been at 18, standing in the kitchen while everyone decided she could wait. I wished I could tell her that leaving wouldn't break her. It would build her. If this story feels close to home, if you have ever been the one expected to carry everything quietly, take a moment to stay with it. Sometimes hearing someone else's truth helps you recognize your own. I didn't win because my family struggled. I won because I stopped disappearing. I learned that being loved should never require erasing yourself, and that choosing peace can be an act of courage when it is finally your own.